I'll show you guys a CPM4V Bushcraft, I guess, style knife that I made, and I decided I'm just gonna keep it. So this is the sheath I also made. It's the first sheath that actually is somewhat decent. It's Tech-Lock compatible, and then I use the same titanium screws as on the handle. Got the Tech-Lock set up this way, and I've actually been carrying the knife tip up like this. It's really easy to, I don't know, it's just a good carrying position, I find, out of the way. So good retention, whatnot. I'm kind of proud of the sheath, even though it's definitely not perfect. So I'll get into the knife. It started out as 0.140, so a little over 1/8 inch. CPM4V. It's a flat grind with just maybe a little bit of convexing. It's probably ground to about this point and then kind of convexed in, and the edge is flat with just maybe a little convex. It got wet and I left it overnight, so there's some kind of rust marks on it. But if you look where the bevel starts, that's right around 20 thousandths. I measured it. I thought it was 15, but it's really 20 thousandths. So it's thin or a little thick depending on what type of knife you're used to using. It's hardened at 61 to 62 by Peter's Heat Treat with the triple cryo. And I didn't go super high because you got a lot of wear resistance with the 4% vanadium. I can tell a big difference between this and 3V when I was hand sanding it. Did it to about 400. And this patina, it does kind of patina pretty. If you can see around those little rust spots, that just happened, but you can kind of see the patina. So anyways, back to the knife. With CPM4V, you have a really high wear resistance, so it doesn't make a ton of sense for me to go crazy high on the Rockwell, on the hardness. So anyways, these handle scales I won. They're stabilized burl with a glow-in-the-dark blue, and then what I did is I lined them with G10, and I drilled the G10 out and filled that in with glow-in-the-dark epoxy. So it's pretty cool at night. And then when I was drilling the holes initially for the handle, I screwed up, so I drilled them bigger with a step bit and filled these in with glow-in-the-dark epoxy, and then that's where I drilled the actual titanium screws into, as you can see, hopefully. And then before I sent it into heat treat, I did a file work. I guess you could call this like a rose pattern. Let's see if we can. So it ends up being a pretty handsome knife. No guard, about a 4-inch blade, and a little over a 4.5-inch handle, kind of like a broomstick style. So what I figured I'd do real quick is just give it a quick exercising. So just your standard kind of 3/4 inch. Pretty simple. Now again, this is kind of like a more bushcraft style knife, so I'd probably carry it if I was doing some ultralight backpacking or just messing around in the woods, or as like a small knife when I'm walking around in the woods with this, you know, carving, whatnot. So this is ground pretty thin, and I wouldn't do a ton of batoning with it, but I think for this stuff and maybe smaller branches, once you have them cut down for fire prep work, that's kind of what I intended for this knife. But I'll show you some. We'll just cut this crossways. You know, I found that this steel is pretty tough, especially for this size knife, where I think you'd I almost wish it had a little more chromium like the CPM4V, because it does rust a little faster. And but other than that, it's something you know, to look into if you're really into CPM4V and you want a smaller blade and you want to try maybe a steel that'll hold a little better edge, but you really like how the toughness of CPM4V, this might be a good steel to test out. Alright, so you can hear my knees popping. I don't know if you'll be able to see that edge, but there's absolutely no damage whatsoever. It's got a nice fine alright, let's see if it'll pop off some hairs. Yeah, so it shaves hair pretty darn good.